Welcome back to Dirty 20, everybody. Today, we're going to take a look at the one-shot that we created, the Crystalline Snowflake. Let's get on with the show. Happy holidays, everyone. We hope you are having a great festive season. And to keep you entertained, we recorded a one-shot live play of a adventure that I wrote and put together. And today I wanted to talk you through a little bit some of my thinking, places where, you could add your own kind of vibe to it, or just suggestions in general on running the one-shot. So I tried really hard to keep it simple and also flexible so that people, as I say, could add their own kind of spice to it. I made it for 3 to 4 characters of about 4th level. If you wanted to do fewer than that, just 2 people or 1 person, I would rethink the combat encounters in particular, or at the very least using the psychic rules that you get in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, as well as the Essentials kit. But it was really important to me that I made it nice and compact so that it could definitely be finished in one short-ish session. I essentially broke it down into 3 parts. The first was the setting out of the adventure. The purpose of this was to give the players a chance to introduce their characters, describe what they look like, as well as receive the quest and be able to ask any questions. And also a little bit to kind of entice them with the possibility of magical items that they could receive in payment for this if the characters are not your kind of, do-gooding kind of adventurers. Now, that was pretty straightforward, and it would be argued quite railroady in the sense that the story's moving and there's not a lot the players can do, but this is part of playing through a one-shot and running a one-shot. You have to kind of get everybody on board and kind of rowing in the same direction. Next up, though, I wanted to have in the second part, a kind of social encounter where the players could seek out some of the information that they know that they need. And I turned to my trusty Lawsmith books. I've done some reviews on them in the past. Please check them out. They're really, really wonderful. And I did this because it means that my life as a DM is much easier. I don't have to kind of think about fully fleshed out NPCs and a menu for the tavern or a bunch of stuff that the shop sells. It just makes your life so much easier. And a lot of them are really cool. So I looked at the Sheer Dread, and which is run by the halfling rogue Gullimort. And, his wide-eyed Tom Wood, who's the kind of kid who's just doing a part-time job there, and Nergrim as well, who's like the kind of angry employee who you could maybe kind of twist to get some information from them. But the other cool thing that I really liked about the Sheer Dread was the fact that it wasn't a tavern, the fact that it was a barber shop, and I wanted to kind of see what that was like. Now, one thing that happened during the one-shot, which was really quite cool, was, and you have to kind of run with these things. One of the players decided that he kind of wanted to talk to some of the punters. And again, in the book, you have these people. And he just, for whatever reason, said, I want to talk to the half-orc, who looks rough and mean. And it turned into a really fun kind of little interaction where he's trying to convince him to join them. And, he's rolling charisma rolls. He's a sorcerer. So eventually he convinces this half-orc to join them. And I think you have to be open to that kind of chaos when NPCs get brought in, when player characters get a chance to roleplay and interact. And, roll well. I mean, it's part of the fun of it, right? But as far as the information gathering goes, I always find that DC, difficulty class, which is something that you'll see in books often, will give you a guide as to how difficult something is. So, for example, a DC 15 means that somebody rolling that skill needs to get that or higher in order to be successful. Now, that's very basic because, there's, successes with partial failures or partial failures with some success. And there's some really good videos out there. I know Matt Colville did one about that. But here, what I'm trying to establish in the one shot is that this thing is somewhat hard, or this thing is really hard. If a DC is 20 and above, that means that someone who's really good at it has to be giving it a go. But DCs are a nice guide to write down, to remind yourself, but always feel comfortable with adjusting them depending on the kind of party that you have. If someone's trying something that they're just naturally very good at and they're giving it lots of time, then, just allow them to succeed if it's not going to completely, take everything off the rails. But certainly, it's useful. DCs are very useful. Now, the one thing that they're dangerous for is if you lock a piece of information behind one dice roll and someone rolls and they don't succeed, and then someone else tries and they don't succeed, suddenly you have this vital piece of information that they have no other way of getting. So essentially, here in this one shot, we have a piece of information. Where has this young man gone? And there are several different ways in which the characters can get at that information. And there's different levels of difficulty, different levels of guile that they might use in influencing Nergron, for example. But in this particular adventure, Arlen Shuck, played by our good friend Jez, he was a halfling rogue and a gambler. And so in my head, as they kind of arrived there, I felt that it would make sense for them to know each other. But I wanted it to be somewhat dramatic. So I went with a kind of Lando and Han vibe in Empire Strikes Back, where at first it seems like there's tension and then he's, being all friendly and stuff like that, but without the later betrayal. Now, again, if in the moment you think of that, then you can turn around and be like, you know what, he might turn around and betray them. When they're coming back out of the university, say you've got through that section really fast, he's there to take his cut or to double cross, the heroes. It's wonderful when that kind of, in the moment, that kind of improvisational element of DMing is really, really cool. Now, the final section was kind of multi-tiered. First of all, I wanted to have a little bit of exploration as they entered this new environment, this university campus, entering through a secret entrance. And I wanted to kind of set this mood of this kind of frozen, wooded area, to really kind of take us out of the urban environment and stick us into a more classic kind of winter environment. Now, the exploration encounters, which we have done a video on as well, are always cool because they give you a chance to really describe something, and I think in the actual live play you'll see that I'm kind of really enjoying being really descriptive about the university. However, I wanted to get them to a potential bit of combat relatively quickly because, D&D, this is the thing, a lot of this character building and the stats and your character sheet and all of that is almost all about combat. And so getting them to like a quick small combat where they can express what they've put into their character and the time that they've made to build their character, I think is always a great idea. Here, there was an opportunity to bypass it if they were particularly kind of vigilant, as you'll see in the PDF. But equally, no problem. It's not something that they can't necessarily deal with. But again, you're also getting them to use some of their resources, some of their spell slots, because, the big fight is down the line. Next up, another little social encounter. I think the thing that I am realizing the more I play D&D is that the role-playing is just really satisfying to me. I get to play different characters, use different voices, and you know, as a player, as a DM, I always think more role-playing, cool. And so here was another opportunity with a Yoda-like character that has a lot of answers to a lot of questions. I reference a lot of Star Wars, I do realize this, but you know, good storytelling, Joseph Campbell. Now, this leads us to the big final battle, and there's always a sense of inevitability with the final battle that kind of no matter what the players do, they're unlikely to be able to resolve it without fighting. And I think that's okay. Again, D&D 5th edition very much built towards combat being a central element of the game. In this case, I found an ice elemental online. I'll often, you know, find cool different stat blocks, homebrew stuff. You know, why not? Again, a lot of it has to do with the flexibility and how you you use monsters. And I recommend you watch our previous episode on running monsters and reading stat blocks, because in this particular battle, you may notice that the ice elemental doesn't last that long, and this is also something that I kind of always tell myself like a mantra, which is don't let combat drag. Don't let combat drag. If you know you're going much more than 5 rounds, I think it's too much. So in this case, what I did was I was flexible with the resistances, and my kind of way of thinking was, you know, this young man, the half elf that they've come to take to his father's deathbed, is there, and he is kind of fighting. And I did write in the PDF that, you know, if the players decide to appeal to him, that in that sense, they can overcome some of the resistances or slow it down, maybe get it to skip one of its turns, something like that. Again, you're trying to create a satisfying combat for this one-shot. It's a different kind of story in a campaign, I think. You want jeopardy, you want the possibility that characters can die and things like that. But in a one-shot, I think it's better just to go with fun, disposable action. Now, the wrap-up, in our case, when we played through it, we went by quite quickly with it. If I were to do it again, maybe I would have kind of taken my time to wrap things up a little bit more, to have a meaningful scene between the father and the son, make the players feel like they've achieved something, and then reward them, give them the magical items, you know, either prepare them beforehand or, you know, roll randomly on some of the tables that are out there. All of these things are good because you want the ending to feel satisfying. And I was very satisfied with the ending, but perhaps I would have taken more of my time with it. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching. If you've ever thought about running some D&D, I recommend you grabbing the PDF and letting us know if you enjoyed it. You know, let it inspire you to create your own, and you know, give the live play a watch. Let us know what you thought. We'll be hopefully doing some more of those in the future. So as always, thank you to the players, thank you to producer Jay, and you know, everything we've achieved this year is amazing. So last thing to say is, as always, keep slaying. If you've enjoyed this content, then please smash that like button, subscribe, share this around online, and come and visit our website, www.lavictoriaproductions.com, to see all our past episodes, as well as our blog posts and all the stuff that we're currently working on at La Victoria Productions. Why not reach out to us and tell us what you think of our videos? You can reach us on Twitter. At Mouth La Victoria is our producer. We are also on Instagram. I am Enano LVP, and our producer is Jazzy J Cherot. We're also La Victoria Productions on Facebook and LinkedIn. Come on by and let us know what you think.